businesses who actively use blogs generate 76% more leads than those who don't. Additionally, on average, blog posts cost 62% less per lead than outbound marketing. As you know, more leads equals more sales. Your blog is one of the most important, powerful tools, so you'll want to make sure you use it effectively. Of course, there's a lot to consider when creating a blog campaign. Now, you're likely thinking somewhere along the lines of, blogs take time and effort and I just don't have that. Or, I don't even know where to start or what to write about. In this section, we'll break down how you can get started, what makes for a good blog, and how to maximize its potential for generating leads. Here are 5 key aspects of a blogging campaign, along with a few bonus tips that will help you save time and improve your SEO. Number 1. Topics. Blogging is not about telling people what you did yesterday or why people should pick your business over the competition. It's about offering engaging, informative, and/or entertaining content that creates a need to read. The goal isn't just to tell people a story, but to get people to want to read your story. When you cover a topic, it doesn't necessarily have to be about your business. Instead, think about broader areas of the industry you're in. For example, if you run a greenhouse, you might write articles such as 5 ways to grow bigger peppers, 5 tips for bolder, brighter roses, or is your dirt too acidic? Here's how to test your soil's pH levels. These topics all relate to that specific business by offering helpful advice to gardeners. However, notice that none of these have titles like, you should buy from us because we have the best plants. Now that's what's called business vanity, which turns readers off pretty quickly. Besides, if someone is already on your website, reading your material and learning about your company, there's a good chance they already are interested in what you do. As long as your website messaging is clear, you won't need to make a long-form sales pitch. The longer you keep people engaged, the more likely they are to stay on your website and eventually become your leads. In fact, you'll want to let your reader know that if they're having a specific problem, you'll have a solution that fits their needs. But make sure to tie it in with the rest of the article so it doesn't seem like a hard sales pitch. Also, you shouldn't go overboard with your years of experience. I worked for one company who opened in 2011 but claimed to have 250 years of experience, which is sort of ridiculous, right? It's good to have experience, awards, and other accolades, but if you're using marketing correctly, you won't need to use those as a crutch. By offering free, informative content, you develop clout. As long as you're offering truly helpful information, you'll position your business as both reputable and knowledgeable within your field. When you put out consistent content that shows you know what you're talking about, you begin to build a trust, a rapport with your audience. At its core, this is what makes a blog such a powerful lead generator. Keep it relevant and useful to your readers. Inevitably, your audience will tell you what they want to read by way of analytics. When you can see what content performs the best, you get a sense of what people want to see and consume. Make sure to keep testing and learning. Number 2. Consistency. How often should you post? For this, there's not necessarily a golden rule. You may think that the more you post, the better, but that's not necessarily true. If you're able to churn out engaging content daily, then by all means go for it. Otherwise, don't force it. You might end up doing more harm than good. One of the most important aspects of blogging is consistency. Most people develop expectations and rely on regularity. You'll need to develop a cycle that fits your schedule. I recommend that you start with 1 article per week. If you can generate more than 1 per week, that's even better. But if you start with 1, say, every Monday, then you have a week to prepare. Now, you might find that day and time you chose doesn't get you much traction, but that's good and it's normal. Good marketing revolves around testing. Make sure to try variations of dates and times to find the one that clicks with your customers. Now, if you don't think you can generate 1 every week, don't worry, you have options, and we'll get to that in number 5. Now, in addition to updating your blog entries, a new article every week goes hand in hand with email campaigns. I've found that weekly blog updates and weekly emails really work well together. You always have something new to offer, which gives you a reason to reach out to your customers or readers. Also, consider building a bank of articles before you start releasing them. It doesn't need to be a lot, maybe a half a dozen or so. This serves 2 purposes. First, if you're just too busy to write an article on any given week, you'll have a spare one ready to go. Think of this as sort of a content savings account. Especially if you're just beginning, there's no telling what issues you might have crop up, and you'll be glad you have one available. Second, when you first launch your blog, try to publish a handful of articles at once, initially. This will give readers more to check out on your website, which might look a little empty if you only have one single entry. Giving them a handful of entries to read over will give them a sense of what your brand is all about. And as long as you continue to deliver, they'll have a reason to come back for more. If you think you can manage to put out 2 to 3 per week, that's even better, but just be careful. As soon as you start putting out filler material or clickbait articles, you're going to start losing regular readers. And believe it or not, it's harder to rebuild that lost trust than it was to gain it in the first place. So instead of focusing on how often you post, focus on quality and consistency. Number 3, structure. You probably have a few ideas of what you might want to cover. Once that's settled, you'll need to do some actual writing. Your articles will cover different topics, but there are a few general guidelines to follow that separate the amateur from professional. First off, as we mentioned in number 1, you aren't writing testimonials about yourself or your business. You're writing things related to your industry. For the most part, keep yourself out of it. If your greenhouse is writing about fertilizer treatments, include a brief sentence or two about how your greenhouse happens to offer Brondo with the electrolytes your plants crave. Or whatever. I don't know, I'm not a gardener. But, and I can't stress this enough, don't put all of the focus on you. Countless studies and surveys have proven it's one of the biggest reasons that readers bounce away from a page. And I've seen it happen to all too many businesses. Just because your business associates on LinkedIn give it a thumbs up doesn't mean it's effective. That being said, the best articles are a lot like any other piece of writing with a few caveats. Basically, you want to tell a good, concise story that people want to read. One that includes a topic, introduction, useful or entertaining facts, and a conclusion. People like stories. They remember stories. They pass them along to other people they like. Here's an example of a good story structure. Introduction, where you try to hook a reader. Present a problem your customer has, such as your flower's leaves keep falling off. And finally, the solution to the problem. Your plants need lemon-lime flavored fertilizer. Add a quick conclusion, and that brings it all together. You're good to go. Now there are technical aspects as well. First, when you're writing, structure it as if you're talking to one single reader rather than a group of readers. By doing this, you'll increase reader engagement and generate a positive emotional response. Try to incorporate the word you into it. Connect with the reader by saying you should fertilize your garden once per week rather than saying people should fertilize their gardens weekly. It's a subtle yet important difference that truly makes your audience feel a sort of attachment. As for article length, a lot of experts out there say that you need to hit around 2,100 words. Now, I've published 300-word articles and 2,400-word articles, and honestly, both have done really well, mostly because the content was concise, engaging, and informative. I generally aim for 1,000 words, but again, there's no set number here. No matter how many words you use, remember that people generally skim articles for useful information. For that reason, you'll want to break yours up with several subheadings. It's not unusual to have 4, 5, 6, or even more subheadings, even in a short article. Also, the average reading level in the United States is somewhere around the 8th grade, and it's not much different in the rest of the world. Search engines like Google and Bing know this and tend to rate easy readability higher in their search results. For that reason, it's important to keep the wording and language as simple and concise as possible. Use action verbs and shorter sentences, because nothing else really matters if your reader doesn't understand your message in the first place. Next, pick a keyword or key phrase to focus on. Use a tool like Google Trends to see what's trending in your industry. Focus on these terms throughout the article. These terms hold a significant amount of weight to search engine algorithms when they're used in titles and subheadings. Now, we'll get into this a little more thoroughly in the SEO section of the course, but don't just pick a keyword and plug it in a bunch of times. You'll get a bad reputation with search engines and likely attract the wrong audience. As with anything else, it has to make sense in the stories you're telling. Search engines also tend to lean toward articles that contain both internal links, which are ones that are on your website, and external links, which are ones that are outside of your website but on other reputable websites. Why? Because they tend to view your page as more credible. If you're telling a story about vegetables and you cite an article on the FDA's website, your information becomes more believable and useful. Make sure your websites you link to are trusted and not just random theoretical blogs. And finally, add some visuals. Have you ever read through an article that made your eyes water? Make sure to stimulate your reader with good images, graphics, and supplemental videos. Not everyone learns the same way, so try and outline your story as you go, sort of like you're seeing in these videos. If you were just listening to me talk, this would be far less consumable. Just make sure you're legally able to share that content on your website. We cover that more specifically in the website section. To close out number 3, keep it simple, make things easy to find, focus on key terms, link back to solid resources, and use some visuals. Number 4, distribution. Now that your article is complete, it's time to spread the word. This is where a few of the other aspects of marketing come into play. Start out by posting on your website, but don't stop there. Organic searches only get you so much traffic, no matter how great the article is. This is where your email campaigns and social media really matter. Once you publish the article, post its link into your social media platforms, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, or LinkedIn. Use whatever platforms are most appropriate for your business. Don't post the whole article though. Just give people a piece that makes them want to read more. The idea here is to drive traffic back to your website. Give readers the opportunity to become customers. Here's a good example. A greenhouse publishes an article on different types of tomatoes. To get people to read it, they want to create interest with a post such as, "How many of these 20 tomato varieties have you tried?" Or, "There's a perfect tomato for your sandwich. Find out which it is here." Both examples create curiosity. If they enjoy tomatoes, they're probably going to check out the article, visit your website, and see that your greenhouse really knows their stuff. Social media is important, but not everybody in your audience follows you there. That's where the email campaigns really come in. Now, as we discuss in the email section, your campaigns need content, and your articles need a place to go. It's really a perfect fit. When your email goes out, whether it's weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, or quarterly, include your articles. Again, not the entire article, just a short description with an enticing reason that gets people to want to check it out. Add a read more button and drive that traffic back to your website as often as possible. And finally, there are push-to campaigns that supplement social media and emails. Now, I'm sure you've seen them pop up on a website or two that asks you if you want to allow or deny notifications. Contrary to popular belief, this sort of marketing distribution works really well. Let's say someone visits your website and clicks accept, but that same person doesn't follow you on social media or subscribe to your email list. They'll still receive updates from your company when you publish new content with push-to campaigns. Number 5, authors. Depending on the industry, coming up with fresh, relevant, and accurate content can be tough. If you're marketing for your own business, then you probably have a pretty good idea of your industry and the topics you can cover. If you can write your own, then you might be the best person for the job, for now. But even if that's the case, you might not always have the time, energy, desire, or writing skills to do it effectively. And if you're marketing for a business that's not yours, it can be even more challenging. But that doesn't mean you can't get it done. You have options. In cases like these, you're probably going to need to reach out to a professional writer. It sounds daunting, but it's actually not as bad as you'd think. There are several useful tools out there, such as Upwork, where you can post positions and writers will come to you and essentially bid on your job. Additionally, you can use social media outlets such as LinkedIn to put out feelers. And you can post on job posting sites such as Indeed or ZipRecruiter. The best part about Upwork, though, is that it takes the tax burden off of you. If you hire through the other outlets, you'll have to set up 1099s with your freelancers if you pay them more than $600 per year. It's all a matter of preference. Now, hiring outside writers can pose its own challenges. Not everyone who knows your industry is the strongest writer, and not all good writers know your industry. Some perfectly good authors might need direction on topics you want them to cover, while some industry insiders definitely need a little bit of work on their editing and storytelling. The key is to learn what the writer is good at and what they're not so good at, and offer appropriate feedback. If they're offering their services for hire, then they're usually fairly professional and willing to adapt a bit. If they aren't a good fit, move on and try another writer. It might take a handful of tries, but you'll find the right fit eventually. As we explained in number 2, this is where it's good to have a content bank of articles. Even if you struggle for a few weeks to find the right author, you'll still have available content to distribute. And a final note here, keep in mind how important consistency is. Articles can be tweaked and topics can be suggested, but reliability is difficult to come by. If you find a reliable author, you'll probably want to take extra care to keep them around. To bring it all together, you'll want to choose the right topics to garner interest, be consistent in your delivery, structure your articles to make them more readable and SEO friendly, distribute them via email and social media, and push-to campaigns, and find the right author to piece the content together in both a timely and effective manner. Blogs are powerful lead generators. Use them to your advantage. Alright, it's time to move on to the next video. Let's go.